a player that had a standout time this weekend and is included in this Canadian roster, Tajon Buchanan. I don't think any of us were expecting him to show out as well as he did for Villarreal in his first start of the season. He's leading La Liga in the Golden Boot race. 3 goals, an exceptional performance, and a 5-0 win for Villarreal over Girona. It seemed like they were just kind of flying everywhere. First goal caught us all by surprise, given how good it was, and then he adds 2 more. Was this the best Canadian performance in Europe ever, Brendan?
Oh, that's tough to say, and it's funny because we often talk about, do wins early in the season, matter the same as wins at the end of the season. And with soccer, it's a little different, but with baseball, I am adamant that wins early in the season do not count the same as wins after the All-Star break. This to me feels, and when it comes to judging performances, feels like you have to mention the date. You have to say that this is match week 1, match week 2, that this is August. And I feel like across the board, across the top 5 leagues, you often see some skewed results and performances that don't hold up consistently. Not to take away from that, because it was pretty special, especially for a player who we wanted to see at that level, believe can do that in a top 5 league. And that might, really have cemented his place in Marcelino's starting lineup until at least, I don't know, Canadian Thanksgiving, which is not a guarantee even for a player like that who they've spent a bit of money on and clearly believed in. So hopefully that's the case for him, and hopefully those can continue. And to Alex's analysis from last week about all the changing pieces at Villarreal, and maybe there's still some more to come. It does seem to see from a couple of weeks already that they found some real chemistry. There's some real cohesion. So I think the scouting department of Villarreal deserves a raise already.
Well, yeah, but they just sold this morning. I think it was Yeremy Pino, one of the other wingers, went to Crystal Palace for $25 million. So I think Tajon Buchanan. You say Canadian Thanksgiving, I laugh. I think Easter. It's his spot to lose. If he's not in the lineup at Easter, there's an injury or something went wrong, because I think with Buchanan, they really like what he can bring. And you just see it so direct, so beautiful of just get the ball and go. And he has that confidence back at Inter. Again, how many times did we say it? He'd get the ball, he'd hesitate, fake a shot, go backwards. I don't like what I'm seeing today. This time, it was just remarkable, because every time he got the ball I do not like this. It almost felt personal. It almost felt like when Michael Jordan was in his prime, and that was way before any of my times, but you watch the highlights, like he'd look at a defender and he'd almost be like, I don't like you. I just want to absolutely embarrass you. Buchanan almost had a bit of that swagger to him. The way he nutmegged the defender on that first goal felt personal. He didn't even need to do that. He probably could have dropped the shoulder, cut inside, shot. He's like, nah, there's this guy, close your legs, you goof, and then roofed it. So I like that with Buchanan, because that's Buchanan at his best. He has always had a bit of that swagger with New England, with Club Brugge, and at Inter he kind of lost it. But now what I like about this isn't just some one-off game that you're laughing about, like, man, like Tajon Buchanan was in terrible form and he pulled this hat trick out of nowhere. No, the stat now, I think, is those last 10 games for club and country. He has 8 goals and 2 assists. He was excellent for Canada this summer, and we were talking about how he was back for Canada. To end the season with Villarreal, he scored against Barca. He assisted against Sevilla. What I like is this is continuity for Tajon Buchanan. This is perfect, because earlier this summer I mentioned how Buchanan's move was one of my favorites, because this was him finding a very good level that we're sleeping on, that Villarreal's perennial top 6 team. They're a Champions League team. And he's a regular starter there. He's a key contributor already. And when you see a performance like this, you think, okay, yeah, that is going to stay. He's not going to score hat tricks every week, but there is a world where he can score 5-10 goals, maybe get 5 assists. And you're thinking, wow, for a Canadian starter to be doing that in La Liga on a pretty darn good team, it shows why Tajon Buchanan, for me, now that he's back to at his best, he's a lock next year to start. And I think that's super exciting.
Listening to the way Alex summed that up towards the end, all I could think of was John Herdman, like pounding the table with excitement and spilling tea across whatever desk he's sitting at. It's like, tier 1 players, man. That's what I'm talking about. Tier 1 players.
If this doesn't rank number 1, though, in terms of Canadian club performances, especially in Europe, I think, we can leave MLS and the CPL out of this conversation. But if you're looking at Europe, Tajon Buchanan, I would probably put that as number 1. The other ones that came to mind were all of the goals that Jonathan David scored against big clubs. Alex jotted down his perfect hat trick against Le Havre. There must be, a few others as well, but those are the ones that came to mind, as well as Alphonso Davies' performance in the 8-2 win over Barcelona in the Champions League, Brendan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there was his breakout game was at Stamford Bridge. It was like the last game with fans.
Thank you. I wrote that down because Ben went 8-2. He 8-2. He was a secondary story. Coutinho was the story. There was some other Lewandowski.
Yeah.
Against Chelsea, he was like the man of the match, and they were chanting Fonzie, Fonzie, Fonzie. That was his breakout for me.
That was literally like Sky Sports News was like, who is this American that's not that Bayern Munich have? Like people did not know. That was his real breakout in Europe, and then the world came to a stop. But his biggest highlight moment was in that Barcelona win, which is in part why you remember it, and they went on to win the title. But I think of Fonzie like that year. I guess maybe this is mildly unfair to Jonathan David, but I kind of like amalgamate his entire time at Lille to compare it to that one first breakout year for Alphonso Davies in terms of where I put it on the shelf of incredible Canadian performances. This hat trick from Tajon is amazing, but I think for me, the surprise that Fonzie became elite, that season to me, and those two games against Chelsea and against Barcelona, that's a where were you when kind of moment. This could be that for Tajon, could be, but to be honest, I think that there's more. I think there's more for Tajon.
Well, I guess as with anything, you always have to preface and acknowledge what you do know and what you don't know. And I'll right away, before I throw out some fun games that I remembered, that when Ben threw this question to me, I do not have anything pre like 2014. So if there's any like Thomas Radzinski performances or Paul Stalteri or some of the other Julian de Guzman, I know in the Liga there was apparently some great performances. Please let us know in the comments or any of the sorts. I actually would love to reflect on some of those that were a bit before my time. But some of the ones that I found...
Just what's a shame, and just to clarify for anyone listening, wondering why we're completely ignoring the Turkish Super League, is like there's just not access to some of these games. Like Atiba had amazing games at Copenhagen, at PSV. He was the superstar that nobody ever saw, right? This is a great example of I wish we had more access. And so it's not just your age, which is why 2014, it's also just our availability.
But I do have an Atiba Hutchinson performance on there because I do remember this one. It was when Besiktas, they were regularly in the knockout rounds and they played Arsenal in 2014. And he was so good that Arsene Wenger was like, who the heck is this Canadian guy? Like Atiba Hutchinson showed out. Too bad they never found a way to sign him. Maybe that could have been a match made in heaven. But I want to shout out that because people forget, at least for me growing up, having Atiba Hutchinson every week on the Champions League, like it really made me, I've always loved the Champions League regardless, but it was always cool to have a Canadian guy just balling out with this random Besiktas team. Like for a Canadian, like who is Besiktas, right? Everyone knows the Inter Milans and the Man U's, and I could always be a hipster with my friends. Like, did you see the Besiktas game yesterday? So shout out to that. I had another Besiktas game because shout out when Kyle Larin had an absolute scorcher of a year. Do you know, I forgot because I'm like, I covered this season. I forgot. In that 2020-2021 year where they won the title, he had 2 4-goal games. Like what?
Yeah.
So that's definitely up there. The thing again with Buchanan, I think Buchanan for sure right away is top 3, given A, the league he did it in, and B, the opponent. Like Girona were in the Champions League, last year? Like it's not, and that's the thing where like Jonathan David's perfect hat trick is up there because that's one of the hardest things to do as a striker, to score right foot, left foot header in a game. So I think it actually is a lot better than people realize. But then it's against Le Havre, so there's always going to be a bit of that asterisk of, you beat up a team that was promoted a year and a half before. Then some other one, the same thing with Larin. Like his one of them was against Hatayspor, and the other one was against a team I can't even pronounce. When he scored 4 goals. Alistair Johnson feels like he's had some good ones against Rangers because whenever he plays Rangers, he just turns into a different player. Some other ones, Junior Hoylett in 2019 or 2018 when he scored that golazo against Wolves and was just so good for Cardiff in the Premier League. I thought that was a shout. And I think there was another one I had here that we forget Stefan Eustáquio scored in Attaca the Liga final 3 years ago, I think it was, against Sporting. I thought he was, I think, man of the match or something or close to it that game. That is pretty cool to see a Canadian ball out like that in a final because there's not that many examples of them scoring or in that sort of level of final. But Tajon definitely top 2, top 3. Like and honestly, he might be number 1 once the dust settles, and we really see over the next few months how this ages.